Who should write a letter of recommendation?
So typically who should write a letter of recommendation sort of varies by program. Ultimately, you want someone who knows you really well, whether that's a colleague, a coworker. Often people will, if they can't notify their organization that they might be looking into a graduate program, they might go with a client. Often schools will also look for an academic rec. That's again going to vary whether you're looking at a law school versus a business program or other types of graduate schools. Sometimes you definitely will want an academic reference, and you should look to the schools to find out whether you should. And again, it should be someone who knows you well, so someone who has taught you in more than one class and can speak to your academic abilities. And I would always encourage students to count how many they need. So some schools will only require one, other schools might require three. So it's very important for students to get their facts straight and they know what schools are going to require which letter. But ultimately, regardless of program, regardless of graduate program, it should be someone who knows you well and can really highlight and speak to your both strengths and your weaknesses so that it can be really helpful to an admissions committee.
Is it generally preferable to have a letter of rec from a department chair that doesn't know you well, or say an adjunct faculty member that does know a person well?
You want someone who knows you. So if you work very closely with that department chair, maybe you do research for them, and absolutely use them. We are often, we say we are impressed by big names, but only if they can speak to your abilities. So sometimes we'll have someone who'll say, oh, well, I can get the head of my organization to write a letter. And that's not always going to be useful. If they can't talk about your skills and what you'll be bringing to the table for your graduate work, it's not going to be useful to you. It could hurt your application rather than help it.
How do you like to be approached for a letter of recommendation?
I think ultimately you want someone to come to you with a lot of leeway. So you want enough time so that you can prepare your thoughts as a recommender. So as someone seeking someone to write a reference letter for them, you want to give them a lot of time. Give them the deadlines. I would like someone to say to me, okay, Liz, the deadline for this is such and such date. You've got this amount of time. And it's also helpful to provide either a resume, your personal statement. So if you have changed ideas. Maybe when you were in college you thought you would go to law school and now you're thinking about an international affairs program. You want to make sure that you're letting your referencer know that. It's important that if a recommender says that they don't have time, don't push the subject. It's not helpful to a student if you only write a few sentences about them if you don't really know them. And sometimes I've gotten a letter that says, I don't remember them, they were in my survey class, they did fine, but to me that's a throwaway recommendation as a member of the admissions committee. It doesn't help them. And so, sometimes people will say, well, I'm not sure if I can write it. Take that as a no and find someone else who is. It's better to have that person who has the time for you and can take care of you.
What would you say that admissions committees are looking for in general?
We're all going to take a pretty holistic approach to the admissions process. That said, it is going to be different. So what's important to a law school might be different than what's important to a medical school or to an international affairs program, which is my cup of tea. And so you'll want to contact the schools and ask them. We're very open, and I know from my school I can tell you exactly what we're looking for. Can you learn what we teach? And will you be successful in our graduate program? And so really that's what we're looking for. Are you a good fit for us, and are we a good fit for you? And I think that's true for all graduate schools.